This is the Well Brewed Podcast, where we share our 40 plus years of commercial brewing experience to help our fellow beer lovers on their journey of building a brewery. Full disclosure, we own a brewery equipment business, but we are not here to sell you anything. This is truly about helping the industry we love. So g'day everyone, episode 10, the Well Brewed Podcast, the final episode. Yes,
Woohoo.
Season 1. How's it been for you guys?
Utterly exhilarating.
It's been a blast. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, you had fun?
Yeah, you're the consummate professional at this, Lockie.
Wow, what does consummate mean? So I haven't been to university, I wouldn't know.
I think it's like when you have sex after your wedding.
Today, we're talking about the final sprint, the last week or so before opening your brewery, the bits and bobs and the rats and mice and the things that are always left to the last minute, but they're so crucial that you couldn't open without them. But first, lads, what are we drinking?
Got a little cheeky Glasshouse West Coast IPA.
Oh, G-House, very nice.
I've been caught out a little bit because I've been on site for the past 7 weeks.
I won't tip it upside down now. Yeah.
I've got some independent beers in the fridge.
Oh, there you go, independent-ish.
One of my favourite, Cooper's Purple, or
Very
Cooper's
nice.
XPA.
I've got little Cocoa Stout, Eagle Bay Brewing in
Ooh.
WA. My old man brought this over a few weeks ago, actually.
Very nice.
We didn't get to drink it, so here we are. Thanks, Dad. Thanks to Keegs and Nick and the team as well. Let's give that a crack.
Cheers, boys.
We don't drink enough malty beers on the potty. It's always freaking hoppy pale ales. So,
Well, we
true.
do live in Queensland. Well, most of us do.
well, yeah, speak for yourself. I'm raising the flag for malt.
30 degrees today.
Good work, Lockie.
Yeah, we had 32 yesterday and 18 degrees today. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag.
It is a mixed bag.
Yeah, it's a bit of fun. But, on to more important things. Final sprint, opening your brewery. So we've been through this season talking about a heap of different stuff relevant to opening breweries and building breweries, etc. But there's this last little bit, that the hurdle that seems like all this little stuff that you always leave to the last minute and you don't really think about, but actually takes up so much time. I was like talking to Jake today, you're on site and we're about a day away from commissioning a brewery, and you were talking about how you hate this part of the project. It's all the little bits and pieces where you're working so hard and you feel like you're doing heaps and getting nothing done because there's not huge progress. It's all the little fiddly diddly bits. So I guess starting off, it's unlikely that your bar and your brewery will be ready to open your doors at the same time, unless you hold one back to get them to, and you plan it that way. But
I would argue against that most of the time.
Let's start with the situation where your bar is ready and your brewery's not. Like, Jake, what would you do?
Contract
Brewing.
Start getting some return on investment.
Right. So in this situation, you've got your brewery's not ready to open, but you've got your liquor license or your whatever you need to have your bar open, your fit out's done. You would recommend brewing your beer elsewhere?
Yeah, reach out to like all of your surrounding local breweries. Most of them will have a spare fermenter and often be more than willing to, you'd have to pay for it, but let you get into their brew schedule.
Yeah.
And they're often willing to accommodate, help you design your recipes to match their systems.
Yep.
And it allows you to get return on investment a lot quicker than waiting for your own beer to be brewed.
Yep.
Because when you come down to it, so say on a 1,000 litre or 1,200 litre kit, each batch is worth, 20 grand of revenue at like $1,000 a keg over your own bar.
Yep.
And that's money that you can start making straight away.
Yep, absolutely. I think, let's like just peel back a bit. Contract brewing. Clemmy, do you want to just run us through, like, people might even not even know what that is. So do you want to like give us a lowdown on contract brewing?
Well, essentially, you're taking your made-up recipes or existing recipes, and you're getting them brewed at another site that has capacity to get you some kegs and pour them across your own bar. So if your bar's ready, fantastic. You're getting some good return on investment by selling kegs across your own bar. I mean, if you can't do that, the next best thing is to just get some other people's kegs even. Just do what you can to get your bar open, get people in the door, start building your brand. And yeah, contract brewing is essentially just getting another brewer to brew your recipes.
Make your beer for you.
Yeah, and put your brand on so you can pour it as your own.
Yeah, and you would be typically like just paying a wholesale rate for that. So it would be comparative within reason. It's probably a little bit cheaper because you're buying a whole batch instead of a single keg, but you're going to be just paying a wholesale rate that's, they're making a little bit of money. You still get, if you're selling over your own bar, then your returns will be good, but not as good as if you're brewing it yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's the best way to go because you're still presenting your own brands and your own recipes across your bar, whether you're making them in your own brew pub. It's probably here nor there in some circumstances.
Yeah, like I guess on that, you could go that extra step and try and find somebody that has there's plenty of breweries out there, so try and find somebody that has a comparable kit so you will get minimal, if any, flavor differences when you start.
And get you some brewery operations experience on something similar as well. So,
yeah, because if you're starting out, you've never brewed before on a large scale, like the step up from process differences from home brewing to commercial brewing is quite significant, even though it's essentially the same process. Like the actual, the actions you're taking day to day are quite different. So 100%, if you can leverage that opportunity, you're paying someone to make your beer and you can shadow them in the brewery and learn about setting up cellar jobs, keeping DO low, CIPing tanks, purging, brewhouse operations, like they are very, grainfather to a 3-vessel brew kit is it's a big jump. It's a very different. So that's a really good point.
It's actually something I had written on the list here, scale up.
Oh, there you go. What do you want to jump in?
Talked about? Oh, I think some people, I guess, underestimate like what it takes to land beers, first or second time off your new kit. There's some fair thought that needs to go into it. You're really trying to understand all the efficiency rates of a new brewery, so hop efficiency, extract efficiency. So it can be quite challenging to nail recipes first go.
Yeah, I just would like to jump in there and say that when I opened the last brewery all those years ago, I won three out of 5 gold medals for the first 5 beers that I brewed on that kit. So just not trying to brag or anything, but
I've won gold with a commissioning brew before.
Oh, there you go. I think a lot of that was luck, but
same.
Some bragging rights going on.
Oh, why not? Pull them out.
It's our podcast.
That's right. Do whatever we want. Oh, that's classic. I guess so on the flip side of that, you've got your breweries ready to make beer, but your bar and your hospo side's not ready to open. What do you do then, Jake?
Brew and start trying to get into other bars. There's plenty of bars out there, plenty of people in the community that would often jump at the chance to start selling local beers that are produced down the road in their bars. So seek those people out, line up as many sales contracts as you can, and start getting that sweet ROI.
I'll jump in as well. Like, if you're brewing before your bar's open, then there's a massive opportunity to just start the hype machine as well. So just start building hype. Like, we're brewing, start posting all the brew house operations, the hops going in. Just get onto social media, get into events around your local area. Start pouring beers across, trailer bars, whatever you've got your hands on. Just
Markets.
Just get your marketing happening. Just start building hype around it all. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Let people
and
know you exist.
That's another point I had here. It's a nice little segue. I had opened with a bang. Promotion awareness about your opening. Like, how are you actually letting people know? You've got this honeymoon period.
Absolutely.
From when you open, how do you make the most of that? How do you leverage it? How do you tell people you're opening? You're the new kid on the block. You're the shiny new toy. Craft beer is built on the shiny new toy. Like, how do you make hay when that sun is shining? Because your honeymoon period doesn't last forever. You might get a few months out of it. You might get 6 months out of it if you're lucky. But everyone settles into a groove and it's never as good as the month you open. How do you maximize that? Because you've just outlaid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to get this thing happening. You need to squeeze every single drop out of that honeymoon period as you can to start refilling that bank account because you've just depleted it. I was going to say deplenished. It's why not? But yeah, like, there's so many things you can do. It doesn't have to be expensive. You can spend money on newspaper ads. I know when we opened Springfield, Wade got us like dudes on scooters with A-frame billboards driving around the city, talking about the brewery opening. But there's, like, social media is your best friend because it's essentially free. Build an audience, tell people what are you doing, make them excited about what's going on. Like,
if things drag on, because we have seen circumstances where people haven't been able to get their building approval, for example, and things don't open when you're expecting them to. Like, get into contract brewing, do everything you can to contract brew yourself, keep that revenue coming in. So there's another alternative that you can consider. If you've got stockpile of your own few beers and you've managed to get them moving and get the sales guys involved in selling as much as possible, and then maybe leverage some capacity by doing some contract brewing just to keep that revenue stream coming in.
Oh, so you're saying brew someone else's beer because you've got a kit there that's being underutilized. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah. So
yeah, 100%. I had a few other points here, like before you're opening, like cleaning is something that gets forgotten about, right? You get to day of opening, you're like, fuck, this is a construction site. Like, I know I've been in a position before we paid professional cleaners, like after building site cleaners or whatever, to come through and they just go over everything with a fine-tooth comb. It's money well spent. Otherwise you're there every night doing it yourself. Like, something you think about. Another point I had was about like staff and staff training. Like, you got a bunch of new people working your bar. They're trying to convey your message, representing your brand, talking about your beers that possibly have never been brewed before. Like, how are you going to get them up to speed? Like, any ideas on that? Like,
I think sensory training is one. It's one that I had as well. Like, your bar staff. You as the brewer, unless you're going to be behind the bar 24/7, that's pretty hard. It's a pretty hard task when you've got all those other things going on. Your bar staff are your number one sales agents. They need to be totally across all the beers.
Yeah.
they need to understand how they're made, understand what's going into them, the flavour profiles, all of those things. As much as if they've got more, the more information they've got, the better salespeople they can be across the bar, because you've got people that have never tasted your beers coming in the front door. They want to be delighted by the bar staff's knowledge. So really important, I think, is to get your staff sensory, do some sensory sessions with them, take them through the beer profiles, take them through like the basics. It's malty and hoppy, or it's low malt. And
Yeah.
One of the things that I've seen done, and this kind of comes from my chefing days, which I think is a really good way to kind of break in fresh staff, is
To blood
you
them.
have a trade night where you invite all the trades that have built it and
Yeah.
get their families along, get everybody along, and do it half price, do it free, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
But try and break all your systems, all the systems that you've come up with and how things work. Load them up. Everybody's going to order food at once, so because you've invited them to be there at a certain time. So the kitchen is going to become overloaded. The bar is going to be overloaded, and try and stress test those systems and tweak and improve them as much as you can before you open for real.
Absolutely. And that's like, like kitchen, it's pouring beers, it's having enough clean glasses, enough cold glasses. It's
Enough toilets.
Enough toilets. Toilets are being cleaned and checked regularly. It's point of sale. It's the Wi-Fi that runs your point of sale and your FPOS terminal. Can you take payments when you've got the cricket streaming on the telly? Like there's all these things you need to think about. Do your staff know where they're meant to be when things are happening? There's so many of these. Absolutely. Who's clearing glasses? Who's polishing? Who's pouring beers? How does it all function? And try and break it. Like you don't want to get to opening day and realize you can't take anyone's money and you got a line out the door. Like that's just total disaster.
And it leaves a bad taste in all of your first customers' mouths.
And step up to it. Do friends and family. Do a free one. Then do a tradies one or another second one, like an industry night or a local personality night, and do half price or whatever, however you want to cut it. People are always up for a half price brewery visit. And then just like test. Yeah, I agree. Like test everything. The other thing about staff, we always used to try, and I know Brewdog do it as well, is the Cicerone beer server training. It's not that hard to do. It's only a few hours, but it takes you through like clean glasses, different beer styles, how to pour beer, what a good beer looks like, what a shit beer looks like, why it's important to have head on a beer, why it's important to not have bubbles cling to the side of your glass. Like all this stuff that's like really quite simple when you know it, but makes a massive difference and a big step up from having numpty uni student to actually someone who's only just done 4 hours training. Sorry to all the numpty uni students out there, but you often work in bars. Love you guys. Stop serving me flat beer. I hate that. I don't know about you guys. My pet peeve is dirty glasses.
Yeah.
So bubbles on your glass, or just like a beer that's just full to the brim with liquid. Like give me a head, like I don't want a flat beer. It's like the old Burswood Casino. You used to go there and you get like a scratched up freaking schooner glass with bubbles up the side. It's filled to the brim with no head. And it was just like, this is a total disaster. It cost me $14 in 2010. Oh man, good times. Anyway, that's my rant for today. But cash flow is something else I had. Like, you get into the end of your project, you're about to open. Well, getting to the end of one party project that's really cash intensive. How do you manage that?
Staff overheads is your number one grief.
Yeah.
When it comes to running cash flow. I guess the other one is working capital. Just how much working capital you've put in before you're going to get a return, because there is beer brewing is a process, so it takes a number of weeks from purchasing raw materials to actually getting return on that first purchase. So, make sure you're not, you've budgeted for working capital. And as much as possible, try not to overdo your overheads with staffing. So
Yes. Casual staff is a killer.
Yeah, total killer.
And it's the last thing you want to see when you walk into a new brewery is just staff standing around, like not knowing what to do, etc.
Yeah,
I mean,
looking awkward, making me feel uncomfortable as a punter.
But if you walk into a new brewery and they're understaffed, like you can see they're busy. There's a lot of leeway given for the first little while.
Pretty understanding, eh?
It's pretty understanding. Most people can go, oh, they've just opened. They're going to be busy. That's fine. Make sure you don't just overstack your staffing because that'll cost you up front. And if you're not selling what you expected to, then fine. Like ramp up to it rather than ramp down to it.
I remember recently I went to an opening, during an opening week, and I got asked if I was done with my meal like 7 times in quick succession by different staff.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
I was so annoyed.
Yeah.
That's probably my pet peeve. Faffing staff.
Faffing wait staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear.
Been a chef too long.
Yeah, that's it, you grumpy old bastard.
Stop asking if I'm all right. You'll know if I'm not.
I'm fine, all right? I'll tell you. If my glass of water's empty. You'll know my meal's done. You'll see a Frisbee coming through the freaking pass. On working capital, I think what I'd recommend is actually having setting aside 1 or 2 months worth of working capital, 3, 6 months, whatever your business plan demands. Put it in a separate account and do not touch it. Put it away. Don't touch it. Don't spend it on the lights. Don't spend it on the extra water filter you forgot about. Whatever you need to do not touch that money because when it comes to opening, you're going to need it. You're going to need to pay wages. You're going to need to pay rent. You're going to have to pay your chefs. You're going to have to fix something that's broken. You're going to have to pay for something at the bar that you didn't think about. There's licenses and all that shit. You will never regret having that money there and you will always regret it if you spend it.
What about when you've got no idea what your sales are going to be because you haven't opened yet? How do you forecast that and kind of try and optimize that with your limited working capital that you have?
Oh, it's so tough, man.
So
Look,
hard.
it's like
Events. Events are great. If you can get a few events, book a few events even soon after your opening.
Yeah.
Understand how many people are coming, get a feel for what kind of staff you need. Those events can make your week. They can get you through another week of sales sort of thing. Like if you have a great event and you've got exactly the right sales and you've got your overheads right and you make great margin on that event.
Yeah.
That just gives you some leeway to keep moving.
I was kind of where my head was kind of at was more thinking about are there any simple metrics? I think we've probably touched on this in a previous podcast, but simple metrics that people can use to figure out what their rough capacity is going to be for a week. Is it if you've got 200 chairs and you go, all right, what about 50% capacity for the weekends is going to be, 100 chairs. So, or did I say 100? Oh, whatever.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. 50% of 200 is 100.
I use commonly people will drink 2.7 schooners.
Yeah.
And that seems to
on average.
On average.
Yeah.
And that seems to get me pretty close to the mark.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing to do is try and just tease this info out of breweries around you, Breweries similar size tap room, they're doing 10 kegs a week. Okay. We're going to be honeymoon period. We'll probably do 15 to 20. And then it'll settle in and we can expect to be similar unless we kill it or we can do something they can't, There's other data points out there. But you just need to find it. It depends. If you're a really massive venue, you can be doing heaps. But if you're a tiny little tap room, you might be getting by on 5 or 6. Like it's very dependent, size, demographic, population density, etc. But do your research, and it all comes back to that planning piece.
Yeah. I feel like your engineering brain just kicked in pretty hard there. Jake,
Model everything.
Model
2.7
everything.
schooners.
2.7. No more, no less.
Oh, it's funny. Oh, he's up
somebody that
stuff.
will drink none and somebody that will drink 14, but they're on average
Yes.
2.6.
Yeah. 7 that'll drink 14 and 7 that'll drink none. Right?
I can't
That
even
makes
remember
sense.
where I got that point from, but
Yeah.
the numbers check out when you do the spreadsheet.
Yeah. That's good.
I'm using it.
So
Yeah.
what do you do with the extra 0.3 of a schooner?
That's wastage.
Yeah, that's wastage.
So it's really 3 schooners.
Guy, can I just I've just had 2 schooners. Can I just get my 0.7 and then I'll be off? That's all right. Yeah.
It's a pot plus wastage.
You're a pot plus wastage. All right. So I had uniforms, float for the bar, like cash float, a few little things like that. Is there anything else you guys had that was relevant to this final
there's-
sprint?
Glassware is not the cheapest.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. If you make sure you've got money aside to buy glasses because you don't want to run out.
Yep. Glass washer that can keep up enough glasses that you can. I know I said it before, but reiterate the point. Enough glasses that you can have one on every table, one ready to receive beer, and one in the washer, and probably one waiting to be cold enough, right? Because you can't serve beer into a hot glass straight out of the washer, but you also need enough. How do you calculate that number? It's working out your occupancy and having a good guess. I don't know what the rule of thumb is there, but it's four glasses per person on site or something. Is that going to be?
Yeah, and model it off 80% occupancy.
Yep. And then if you get caught on the hot, start rinsing them under cold water. Should be rinsing your glass before you fill it with beer anyway, shouldn't you?
Yeah, I like those ones that they use in the milk frothers.
Yeah, they're the best.
So some of the other things I had were, and this is probably a bit of a mixed bag because it depends on your situation, but I think quite often safety gets forgotten. So, when you're getting your brewery up and running and you're starting to do your first brews, I'd like to think that most people have got their eye wash stations and safety showers and things like that sorted.
Yep. Before you're brewing too, before you're slinging chemicals around, that should be.
And that's the other one was chemical orders. I've seen on a couple of occasions where, it's I got to order chemicals. Oh, I got to order raw materials.
Yeah.
It's,
we're meant to be brewing tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a lead time on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, think about those lead times for raws and chemicals and other stock items that you're going to need. Because I know everyone gets caught up in this building and project phase that it's hang on, when the rubber hits the road, we're actually going to need raws and chemicals.
One little sticking point for me is breweries almost always only have triclover fittings, and your water connection point will also be a triclover fitting, and your keg washer's water connection point will also be a triclover, and all your valves will be triclovers.
Yes.
So you need to have fittings on hand that can handle all of these connection points that convert that to something that's more readily available from Reese.
For a plumber.
For a plumber to do it, because they're going to look at it and be like, what am I meant to do with these?
I can't screw into a triclover.
Yeah, exactly. So unless you're going to pay, thousands in fabrication.
This is what we should invent right now. You heard it here first on the podcast. The internal of a triclover fitting that is threaded with BSP. Bam. 2 in 1.
Well,
Not sanitary,
I can do you
not
one
hygienic.
better.
Okay, let's not do that.
You can get on Alibaba or AliExpress or Kegland or any of the places where you can buy triclover fittings and get like a BSB adapter, and they're probably about $14.
Yeah,
buy like 6 or 7 of them because you're going to need them.
60.
You'll use them.
They're 60. The best, man.
Yeah,
honestly.
you can use it for anything.
Oh, it's my most favorite versatile fitting in a whole brewery. Is it allows you to be creative and do silly things as a brewer. To be able to just go triclover to threaded fitting and anything you can buy from Reese or Bunnings. It is just like fantastic, and they're cheap. They cost you dollars, and they save you millions.
Yeah,
as funny as these two are, I actually can remember 3 circumstances in 3 different breweries where I was scouring local industry shops for exactly what they're talking about. So
I can buy triclover ferrules from an industry shop, but they're not attached to anything. They're just
That's right.
meant for welding.
Good call, boys.
They're the best. I agree.
And there's a 2-week lead time on that. So if you want to get brewing in a day, you need to be thinking ahead.
And it's all those bloody CO2 fittings and things like that are just yep.
Find your nearest Pertec and make friends with them.
Yes.
Not that we.
I'm not aligned with Pertec in any way. I find them a bit expensive, but they have every thing that you can imagine.
And now a word from our sponsor. If you're looking for hose fittings and other guff and gaff, please see Pertec.
I do like Pertec. I love going.
No, they are great.
I'm like a kid in a candy shop in Pertec. Look at all these fittings.
Oh, that's killer. All right. Anything else on this, or should we jump into our Q&A?
I think we've covered
Q&A. I think we've covered it.
We've covered it. We've solved the world's problems.
No, there's probably something that everybody will forget about something.
There's probably more. Like the last
food licensing.
Tough.
That's a good one as well. If you're planning to cut limes, you're going to need a food license.
Is that an innuendo?
No. Could be.
All right. So, look, for episode 10, we saving up some questions so that we can have a little bit of a Q&A, a bit of fun for the last episode. So I'm just going to jump in. These guys, Jake and Clemmy, have not heard these at all. I've kept them a secret. They only come to me. So, Clemmy, you're going to be first off the ranks. We're all going to answer them. Probably.
Pressure's on.
Unless I don't want to, but this is a 2-part question. This is from Cryline in Bunbury. So what was the best beer you've ever had, and was it the beer or was it the experience that made it the best?
I was at a restaurant on the South Island, on the the east coast of the South Island of New Zealand, and I was in a restaurant called Riverstone, and I had it was a brewery called Kraftwerk, but it was spelt normally, not like the band. And they're a brewery that specializes in Belgium-style beers that mix grape and grain together. And I had a Chardonnay IPA that just blew my mind. It was so good. I think this was even before I was a brewer or anything. And I was just like, this is the best beer. I probably embellished it a lot with memory, but for me, that was an awesome experience just from the setting that I was in, and like the best beer I'd ever tasted at that time.
That's magic. And was it the beer or was it the experience?
Don't know. I was a bit drunk.
Good. Okay. Clevy?
Yes. Okay. This goes back a lot of years. You guys were probably still in school.
I am still in school. I'm actually 18. No, 16.
School of life.
You're not at school when you're 18. Or are you?
All right. So I remember I managed to get my hands on some very, very fresh Pilsner Urquell. It was actually through a distribution deal with the business I was working with at the time, the brewery I was working with at the time. And I was just trying to think while Jake was embellishing his story
Rambling.
around his Chardonnay IPA.
Chardonnay IPA.
So I can't remember where it was or what I was doing, but I just remember the beer and the maltiness and the balance of bitterness and malt. And so it was definitely the beer. It was just one of those moments where I'm like, oh my God, that is incredibly well put together. It was a very fresh example. And I was like, wow, that is something I aspire to brewing one day.
Epic. Okay, that's great. So
I guess you
mine
did that
was
because you did get trophy.
that's true for brewing a pilsner at the biggest beer competition in the Southern Hemisphere. So
Very proud moment.
Who
Well
else
done,
is
mate.
Australia competing with in the Southern Hemisphere? Maybe
it's not
Chile.
the point. It's not the point. It's not the point.
Okay. Those penguin IPAs are rubbish.
Don't get me started. We went up against the Germans. So
Yeah, that's true because you can enter it if you're from the Northern Hemisphere.
That's
Just
true.
not if you're. Yeah, you
All
can
right,
always.
Lucky, what was yours?
All right, mine was I was in Munich with my now wife. We were staying there on holidays, and we got the train out to Andex, and we did the hike up through the mountain. We sat up on top of the mountain there, in this like old German brewery, and I think we ordered like a pork knuckle, which we probably didn't. I was vegetarian at the time. It's just in my head we had pork knuckle, but it sounds like bullshit. And I just got this like all through my beer drinking career up until this point, I'd never got Hefeweizen. I just like never understood it, right? Like I'm like, it's meant to be like this like nice
Who wants to
summery,
drink a banana?
great style, yeah. And I was like, all the stuff I'd had was imported and it was oxidized and it was flabby and it was like cloying. And then I was like sitting up on top of this mountain. I just done a hike and it was like looking out over the beautiful German countryside. And it's got this stein of Hefeweizen because I'm like, I got to understand this. And I was just like, wow, this is epic. It's amazing. I get it. I totally get it. And it was such a special experience. And it just like is always in my head. And I don't know whether the beer was that good. I'm sure the Andex Brewery is amazing. All the beers I had there were fantastic. But I think it was probably 50% experience and 50% great beer on that one. So
after listening to your story, Lockie, like I remember a time, it was just a magic day. We were in Salzburg and we were in the old square in Salzburg, and I got one of these, big pints or pitchers or whatever they like, liter stein almost, of Crystal Weizen. And it was just, I think you're right, it was like a combination, or a bit like your situation, it was a combination of the beer and the experience itself, in the old square, beautiful day, just sitting out under an umbrella on the table, drinking this amazingly fresh Crystal Weizen. It was just like, oh my God, this is heaven.
All right, so this next question, this is Matt from Tassie. So, guys, glad I found your podcast in the process of setting up a brewery. Wondering if you had any advice for a regional brewer. So I see breweries in the US being destination breweries. Do you think it's possible here, or do breweries have to be in the big smoke to be successful?
No, definitely. There's already destination breweries in Tassie. I think doing something different and price point is probably going to be more important.
Mm-hmm. Price point in what sense? That Tasmanians are stingers, or?
No. I think that you are going to sell less volume, so you might have to make something that's a bit more premium.
Sure.
It's like, so for example, 2 Meter Tall is a good example of that. They're down in Tassie.
Mm-hmm.
They grow their own hops and age their own sour beers in barrels and do lots of weird and wonderful things, and they have the time and the creativity to do so. And their beers are cracking, and they're like out in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, as all of Tasmania is. No, I think, I agree. I think there is an opportunity to be a destination, and
definitely.
you need to be somewhat close to some sort of tourism where people are going to come. But if you give them a reason to be there and do something different,
Tassie like a 2-hour drive.
Sure.
I'm unfamiliar with how big it is.
I've not been there. It's the only state in Australia I've never been to.
I think you absolutely can be a destination brewery. This probably stands true for every situation, but if you've got something that you are passionate about and you've got like you've got a point of difference that really adds, some interesting character to your venue,
Yeah.
and to what you're doing, you've got something that's going to attract your locals. Because I think in the longer term, you can't just rely on tourist trade. If you want to be sustainable, you've really got to have a good local trade as well as a tourist trade, depending on where you are. But for me, you need the local backing. And so if you're passionate, have a good point of difference, have an interesting shtick, so to speak, something that really people can engage with, and you could build a tribe or a community around, you can be very successful.
Yeah.
One little sub point I would like to add is make sure you pay special attention to what the council is saying you need to do for wastewater discharge, because it's a lot stricter in regional areas than it is in the big smoke.
Good point.
So put extra budget aside for that. But other than that, you should be right.
Do your research.
Do your
Nice one.
research.
Very good. All right. So I actually got a similar question from two people. So this is from my mum, actually. Hi, Mum. Is it worth starting up a craft brewery, or is the market getting flooded? And then this is the other part, this is from John in Queensland, listening on the pack line. With all the hubbub in the industry, being a downtime, is it a good time to get in and open a place, or has there ever been a bad time? Is there ever a bad time to get into the industry? So I guess the question together is is it a good time to get in? Is the market downturn affecting it, or is it flooded, or, should you be building a brewery right now?
I think it's a great time.
Money's made in a downturn, right?
Yeah, I think it would be better when interest rates start to come back down, because money will be cheaper. But we are still, I was Googling this the other day, actually, because I like to do that sort of thing. But we're still way off where America is in terms of brewery per capita.
Right.
We're nowhere near it.
Right.
And there's loads of little areas and pockets that don't have a brewery. Even in Brisbane, right? Nunda, which has got massive high population density in industrial estate. It's prime picking for putting a brewery in.
Yeah.
There's no brewery. People have to go kilometres to go to their local.
They have to get an Uber. Oh my
There's
God.
not even a craft bottle shop. I was very upset the other day in Nunda.
Ether.
Yeah, but that's in Northgate. That's so far away.
That's like a suburb over.
It's not that far.
Yeah, but what if you're already drunk and you can't drive?
Good point.
Yeah.
So I think there's lots of little pockets and hamlets and places for breweries to pop up. And the Sunny Coast is still going hard, and there's something over 30 breweries on the Sunny Coast.
Yeah, they're the most densely populated for breweries per capita in Australia, aren't they, as a region?
And that's where we're installing the most breweries. So there's plenty of room for growth.
Craft breweries, it's not an easy gig.
No.
You need to be passionate about this thing. It's going to take up some time, it's energy and brain space, all of those things. But the reward can be just incredible. You have an opportunity to be a producer, to be a place where you attract a community, build friendships. They're an awesome opportunity as well. We've been in the industry for a very long time, and I still see them as an opportunity. I think these days it's not a matter of putting the cookie cutter. We've got 4 recipes. One's a lager, one's a pale ale, one's an IPA. So we'll just slap up a bar and get a brewery in, and we'll make some money. It'll be all awesome. You do need to have. You need to keep that passion alive. You need to have something that is a bit of a point of difference these days. There is some competition around, and depending on where you are, you do need to have that. I think something that differentiates you from the next bloke, but it has to also showcase who you're all about and the passion you've got and what because you'll bring that to the staff, you'll bring that to the whole venue, and the hopefully you can meld that with the marketing plan and all of those things. So if you can showcase your passion for what you're doing, there's still opportunity to perform well and to make good margin, especially in that brew pub space.
Yeah. Okay, so single word answer. Should you open a brewery right now? Jake? One word, mate?
Yeah.
Clemmy?
Yes.
That's more than one word.
I would. I'm going to.
Yeah, righto.
The other little thing on that point, though, would be I think the mindset is changing a lot of what craft breweries will aspire to. I think it's kind of long since past its expiry that you can open a craft brewery and sell out and make squillions of dollars. So that's changing. It's and more people are going into it because they do want to build this community around their venue and their brand and produce great quality beer. That's what's changing. I think it's going more small scale and more local.
Community focused. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I love it. This is from Sean in Queensland. What is more important to a smooth brewery build? Careful planning beforehand or project management during?
you can't have one without the other.
No, you got to give me an answer.
Piss poor planning leads to piss poor performance.
Planning. If I have to give you an answer,
You have to choose one. Yeah.
if I'm gonna choose one, it'll be planning for me. So
Yeah,
if you can work with someone maybe, or be meticulous in the way you're going to approach the build process, and you can plan and consider all the variables, that's going to make a massive difference to how smooth things are going to run, because you've at least considered some of the dramas that are going to come up when you get into this. Every brewery, just about every brewery, has curveballs thrown at them. Something happens with building, plumbing, flooring.
it's 9 months of planning versus a month or 2 of install. So
Or more
or
for some
more.
people.
Yeah, but that's because they didn't do the 9 months of planning.
So planning.
Yeah. So planning. It's planning?
Yeah, it's planning.
Unanimous.
Yeah,
Very good.
but plan on having good project management as well.
What are this one? So this is from Wado. Hi, Wado. Thanks for sending this in. What cost should I include in my beer costings? Should I include or exclude the excise rebate? And how do I set my prices? There's a lot in that. There's a lot to unpack. So beer costings.
That could almost be an entire episode.
Excise rebate. Like, if you're a brew pub, it's probably unlikely you're going to be able to spend 350 grand.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
get
probably
past
not.
pretty hard.
Unless you're a very big brew pub. consider the volume you're going to need to spend 350 grand on excise.
Yeah.
So it's all been rebated by the federal government. So I would suggest if you're under that, or you're clearly going to be under that, then just forget it in the cogs.
Well, also, point is, if you want to learn how to cost a beer, you're probably not paying excise. Once you're over that, you're probably more established as a business person and a brewery owner. So I would say probably don't count excise if you're listening to this.
I would say don't count excise if you're just getting started out in your brew pub.
So as far as like beer costing goes, you've got like raw materials,
Yep.
labor, utilities,
Absolutely. Chemicals.
All those probably like definitely needs to be counted, but like probably a small percentage, but you need to factor it in. Would be cents on the dollar.
It adds up though.
What else is in there? Depending on how you cost it. Like, are you factoring in
Staff.
rent? Well, you've already got labor, but like rent on the floor space a fermenter takes up.
I don't.
I wouldn't. Yeah, that's more just an overhead. I'd put
That
in
comes
there.
into OPEX.
That comes into OPEX.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find my list of all expenses.
Yeah.
So I think you've covered it though.
Party keg sales, that costs money.
Party kegs.
Like when you're selling to a
Wastage for
distributor.
kegs that Jake takes home for parties.
Yeah, wastage is a big one. That's like that can be 10% if your staff aren't trained well. That's
20?
a massive one. 20%.
20.
Yeah. The cost of kegs,
Packaging materials.
Packaging, yeah.
packaging
Materials.
materials. Packaging is
Like
massive.
if we're talking
Cans,
cogs,
bottles,
Recycling,
Labels.
the recycling deposit for each can, you got to pay 10 cents.
CDS,
CDS. It's more, isn't it, than 10 cents?
it's 11 or
It's 11 cents or something.
plus.
Yeah.
Freight.
is there?
If you've got
Freight, yes.
freight's a big one for both like receiving raw materials and distribution.
Freight is a really good one, Jake. Well done.
Yeah, that's a curveball.
And consumables as well. Just like random, like buffer solution and
Lab consumables.
Latex
Yeah.
gloves, spray bottles, ethanol for cleaning sample
Those little-
taps.
that
Pipette
all
things.
adds up.
Pipettes.
So, I mean, the sky's the limit with it. You can, with how detailed you want to go. Obviously, I'm staring at my spreadsheet that I use to model this stuff and
You're not.
reading line items. But
Okay, so that's probably comprehensive enough for this. What about how do you set your prices?
high.
Okay. How do you set your price? You've got to reverse engineer that, I think.
Yeah,
Your brew pub, you need to reverse engineer it. You need to figure out what people are going to be comfortable paying.
Yeah.
Yeah, like what are
Because-
you selling a pint for? What are you selling a schooner for? Is down the road doing that, and then work backwards and see where you fall relative to your cogs, and if something's out of balance, you've got to readjust. So
Well, Massive beers aside, like if you're doing barrel aged and you're doing massive beers that are high alcohol and difficult to do, those beers aside, normal beers, reverse engineer. Cogs will come into play when you're getting into those very big beers, but mostly
in a brew pub setting, I've done a few models where I've just taken the cost of goods from an operating brewery and just doubled it. It's not a massive driver of how everything performs because your
margins are so good.
Your margins are so good. So what drives it is your number of sales. So you just need to focus more on costing your beer. If you're not doing like a full national distribution model, if you're in a brew pub, you need to focus more on getting bums on seats.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, cogs are not the main cost. Well, especially raw material cogs for a beer.
In a brew pub particularly.
Yeah, packaging cogs, on the other hand, are can be expensive.
Yeah.
Those you need to consider. Raw material cogs, I mostly tell brewers to buy what they like, because honestly, the price of the schooner is going to cover all those things and way more.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, and just side note, COGS is cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
If you didn't know. Yeah.
Getting
It's good
tied
to-
up in the jargon of my spreadsheet.
Yeah. That's Jake, I know your mum says you say Segway too much. I reckon you say model more than Segway now.
We've been talking a lot about modelling. It's not my fault. I didn't write the questions.
Well, it's my failed modelling career makes me feel a bit uneasy talking about.
All right, I'll close it. I'll close the tab.
Righto. All right, we got 2 more questions. This one's from Tony. So it's great potty. Clemmy might need a few more beers each session. That's good. Hello to Lockie's mum as well. There you go, Mum.
I've almost run out too. You might be right.
Another hi to Mum.
What's he saying?
What's he saying? I'm not sure what he's getting at, but he can maybe let us know.
Am I boring?
Maybe you wrote this, Tony.
Tony, yeah.
Tony, yeah, this is from Clemmy. He wrote his own question. So, okay, with all these years of experience, what has been your greatest mistake and your greatest achievement in the brewing industry?
Depressurizing a 7,000 litre vessel when I wasn't trying to.
Okay, how did you do that?
Took the wrong tri clamp off, wrong side of the valve.
It was like a pressurized.
Yeah.
Righto.
Yeah, that was fun. Got covered in yeast and hops.
Yum.
Greatest achievement. Ooh. That's hard.
So many to consider.
I know, yeah.
Can't think of anything
Such a
that's really
successful guy.
noteworthy. Can't think of anything that's really noteworthy. I don't know. Designing kick-ass breweries.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, that'll do.
Greatest mistake. Oh, there's been a few. Probably the one I remember, and it's probably not a huge one, but it's just embarrassing. Was I CIP'd a beer that I'd just filtered.
Oh, yeah. So you had a BBT full of...
I had a BBT full of in-spec, lovely, tasty craft beer.
Yeah.
And I was CIPing the BBT beside it, and the two CIP lines run parallel in the same central location.
Yeah.
And I connected the pump to the wrong spray ball.
Oof.
It's not ideal.
And like for the listeners, what was the volume of the tank? Because I know I've heard this story before. It's pretty nuts.
No. This one was mine only, not one of my team members. So this is a 30-hect tank only.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, there was some other occasions where some very, very large vessels were CIP'd, but I'm not sure I was directly
You're
responsible.
You're not culpable for that one.
For hooking up the wrong one. Anyway, greatest achievement. It's probably a couple. I mean, winning a trophy at the AIBAs for a Pilsner that I'd been working on for about 6 months after just opening a brewery, and had an awesome team. They were all engaged in just making amazing beers. That was pretty special. The other one was just building an awesome team that weren't brewers. They actually came from a winery, and were all super keen and interested, but just had no brewing experience. But we didn't really have a lot of option. We just built a team of guys that we molded into brewers eventually, and I think it was a very, very sad day when I left that brewery, and we built that team all the way through the process, and I got to see them go from their first exciting recipes and tasting the beers and troubleshooting and just the highs and lows of the whole experience over a number of years, and that was a pretty cool experience and pretty cool achievement.
My biggest mistake. Look, there's probably some that commercially sensitive that we can't talk about, but I know similar to Clemmy's, like filtered a tank of IPA. I don't know how big the BVT was, but it was bigger than 30 and smaller than 100 hectolitres. No, smaller than 1,000. It was in that range somewhere. And I just filtered it, and I was pushing through the filter with deaerated liquor and just left the BVT valve open and just filled the whole tank with deaerated water and just diluted the whole batch of beer, and it was fucked. It was, I think we ended up putting it down the drain. There was no saving it. It was like 3% by the time I'd finished with it. So that was not great. Not a great phone call to make at 6 a.m. after a night shift. So that was pretty fun. I'm with a few war stories like that, but greatest achievement, I don't know, like it's hard to reflect because you just get so caught up in it, but some cool, like, I don't know. I was really proud of the Sleep When You're Dead range when we launched that, and actually just like really taking a stand for fresh beer, because I think that not enough people put enough emphasis on that. And I think there's such a massive difference between really great beers that are fresh and really, how they age so quickly, and that people just, it's so hard to maintain freshness, and it gets compromised, and it's disappointing, because the whole reason I'm a brewer is because I like to drink beer out of bright beer tanks and have that. It's something really special about having that experience, because you can't get that out in trade anywhere. And so being able to try and package that experience and give it to consumers is really cool, and I'm really proud of having done that. The other one was like Oaked XPA. It's a bit of a funny beer that just happened by mistake, but we won like back-to-back trophies with that beer that can be like this really cool, complex, interesting oak-aged hoppy beer, but also is like, can just be like a nice 5.5%, XPA that you drink after you mowed the lawn. It's got these really cool contrasts and really broad appeal for something that's quite really different and unique. I think that was a really cool product, and I don't even know if they make it anymore, but yeah, there would probably be some of them. I don't know. Oh, I know when I was at Camden, they won a silver medal at the World Beer Cup like a month after I left. So one of the beers that I was involved in brewing, a wit beer, I think, Belgian wit, won a silver medal, World Beer Cup. It's like the Olympics of beer. Like, that's pretty cool to have been involved in cool. Having done that, Yeah, I don't know. It's hard, but
so many Lockie.
No, but it's like, it's just nice to, I don't know. You don't reflect that much, just looking forward to the next beer, Thank you, Brick Lane, for this little zero carb pala.
Nice. I'd have to say, putting this crack team together on this business is a fair achievement.
Maybe the podcast.
It's been fun. Maybe the podcast, achievement.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Righto. All right, we've got one last question, guys. We don't have to get any more sentimental. It's a bit of a fun one. This is from our dear friend Jake. What herb would you have if you could only have one?
Coriander.
Basil.
Expand on that, Jake.
It's used in the most cuisines.
Okay.
Oh.
So you're not limiting yourself. Clemmy, you haven't thought this through enough. You're limiting yourself to Italian.
What about basil, Clemmy?
I
You
do
can
love
have
my
pesto.
fresh
You can
basil.
have plenty of pesto.
I love my basil.
Yeah, Mexican, Chinese,
He's right. I haven't thought it through.
Vietnamese. You haven't. I have. I've spent hours talking about this.
What's your question, Jake? So, obviously, you know the answer.
Oh, I thought it was Jake Harris was asking. No, it wasn't me.
No, it's you. Yeah, it was like you put it on one of our YouTube videos.
That makes sense.
He's
That's why.
answering
That's
his own
why I've spent
question.
hours thinking about it.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay. I don't feel
That's
so
funny.
bad now.
It wasn't Harrison. It was our mate Banner Jack.
Just answering me myself.
Answering your own. Yeah.
Oh well. At least I'm staying true. I
that's
vaguely remember doing that when I was a bit tipsy.
Yeah, you did it. So, Clemmy, basil.
Oh, look, I don't really think I need to go on with it. It's just a great
No.
herb. Grows
Yeah.
so fast.
Goes to seed quick though in Queensland.
It does. Yeah, coriander runs
Just-
to seed too, man.
Just amazing on the bruschetta and the breakfast. And
Oh, it's so good, eh? Look, I was going to preface this by saying that coriander and basil are my favorite herbs. But if I could only have one, it would probably be parsley because it's so broad reaching. It's not as fun
Not
as
as broad-reaching
exciting.
as coriander.
I know, but
there's
you
no
can-
parsley in Mexico, mate.
No, but you can. I had a Corona earlier today, actually. Funnily enough, speaking of Mexico, but like
there's no
broad
parsley in
appeal,
beer.
like cooking, like coriander is really divisive. You know, like kids won't eat it. Like
Yeah,
some
get rid of it.
adults don't eat it. Like I think with parsley, there's just like bigger breadth of ability.
Yeah, you're going for the Switzerland of herbs. I get it.
Yeah, but if I could only have one, you know, I do think basil and coriander are the best herbs. But yeah, it's a tough one. What about Desert Island beer? This one's from me. You get
Desert Island beer.
one beer for
Desert
the rest of
Island.
your life.
Oh.
What is it?
Cooper's Red.
Cooper's Red. Wow. That yeasty boy.
Oh, it's probably back to
Wait.
the one I mentioned earlier is Pilsner Urquell. It's
Doesn't
just
it, Cal? Yeah.
one of the traditional great Pilsners.
Yeah.
Just
Is there
Enjoy.
a fridge on the island?
enjoy very cold. Enjoy. Oh, it's just such a complex multi.
Yeah.
hoppy
If there's no
beer.
fridge, I'll change it to a lager.
Yeah. If there's no fridge, I'd have a stout.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
There's
I'd
no
have
fridge.
a lager.
Nah, 4X drink's all right when it's warm.
Mine's similar to
guys are
Clemmy's. I'd have the original Budvar.
Oh, yeah, that's cracking as
It's
well.
killer and always so good and travels really well and is just killer.
And you could have a couple, you know. It's just
Yeah, it's a drink. It's a beer. It's a drinking beer, but it's wicked too. Like it's really elegant and so well made,
yeah.
and like it's special. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, gone
All
old
right.
school.
A lot
Yeah.
of checks in the top list.
Or Pliny. Although Pliny's a little bit different to Czech pills. All right, that's it. An hour and 15 minutes, guys. Longest one of the season.
Oh,
Hopefully,
ouch.
Joe cuts it down a bit for us.
yes.
We are excellent at talking shit.
Yes, indeed we are. Well, that's it. Episode 10, the Well Brewed Podcast, the final of the season. If you've got any ideas for season 2 for the potty, hit us up, Facebook or Instagram, or email me, podcast@wellbrewed.com.au. And that's it, guys. We'll be back at some stage in the future with another season about something slightly different than what we've been talking about now. Hopefully a bit more exciting. I don't know. We've got some ideas.
Oh, I clearly need more beers as well.
That's
So-
right.
Top 10 heat exchanger designs.
That's coming from Tony. I love it how you emailed yourself to say, hey, Tony.
Sort that out.
Drink more beer.
Sort that out.
Yeah. All right.
I can't believe I forgot that I said the herb comment.
Oh, I'm
Cheers,
out.
Herbie. Bye.
Cheers.